It is now my honor and pleasure to introduce someone who has been so passionate and so influential about the topics that we're considering today, and who's really been an agent of transformation on this planet in so many countless ways, Arianna Huffington.
Thank you, Richie. Thank you so much, Richie. I'm really honored and humbled to be your moderator for this session. And I see my role very simply as making sure you hear as much as possible from His Holiness. I'm sure that's all you want. And my panelists completely agree. So I just want to quickly set the stage. I take part in many conversations about politics, about media, about business, and I can say unequivocally that there is no more important conversation going on the planet than the conversation that has been going on at this conference. So I feel, in fact, that the timing for this conference could not have been more significant, because there is a kind of perfect storm happening right now where three very different trends are converging. The first one is the growing recognition that, to use a term from Alcoholics Anonymous, our world has become unmanageable. That we have leaders in business, in media, in politics, smart people making terrible decisions, not because they're not smart, but because they're not wise. So we clearly need to tap into our own wisdom. Our leaders need to tap into their own wisdom. And that's the work that Richie Davidson and all the people that you are working with, Richie, are focusing on. The work that Mathieu is doing, the work that Jonathan is doing, the work that Dan Coleman, whom you heard from earlier, is doing. The second trend is very optimistic. It's the fact that all this work that used to be marginal has now become increasingly mainstream. About 25% of corporate America now offers some form of mindfulness training, some form of de-stressing, something to their employees, recognizing that American business is losing $300 billion a year because of stress. So, if nothing else, the bottom line is talking to them. And so, suddenly, seeing that work coming to the center of our lives and even of corporate America is incredibly significant. The third point is that, paradoxically, technology, which has made us more disconnected from ourselves by making us hyper-connected to our devices, is also becoming a source for disconnecting. The work you're doing in that field is incredibly important. At the Huffington Post, we have launched an app that we are calling GPS for the Soul. It's free. You tap the camera sensor on your iPhone, and it gives you a proxy for stress, your heart rate variability. And then you create a personalized guide with all the things that help you get back to that centered place. You know, pictures of your loved ones, music, poetry, breathing exercises. And this is based on two truths that are really part of what we're going to be talking about here. The first truth is that we all have that place in us, that place of strength, serenity, wisdom. And the second truth is that most of the time we are not there. So really, part of our work is how can we get there more often? If we're off course so much, how can we learn to have an impeccable course-correcting mechanism? So that is really the exciting adventure we are on. And I want to throw it now to Richie. And Dan Coleman was telling me at lunch that when Dan and Richie were at Harvard together in the 70s. Don't you wish you were a fly on the wall during these conversations? A faculty member told them both that the work they are doing on the mind, on meditation, on all these things was career-ending. Well, we are very glad that they didn't listen. And here is Richie now at the top of an incredible career, among other things, leading the way in the mind-body medicine connections. Thank you, Richie.
Thank you, Ariana. Thank you, Ariana. And I should just tell you that I have GPS for the soul on my iPhone, and I get wonderful reminders throughout the day. So I would highly recommend it. Your Holiness, this afternoon, I'm going to be very brief, and I'd like to review 5 facts that science has taught us about well-being. The first fact is that well-being is a skill. And this is a fact that we glean from our understanding of neuroplasticity, the idea that the brain can change in response to experience and in response to training. And that fact teaches us that the emotional circuits in the brain especially are very amenable to change through training and through experience. And we can harness that by techniques that can be taught in the ways that you have been advocating in a very secular, natural way. We have a study that's about to come out in the next couple of weeks that was done by a very talented graduate student of mine who you've met, Your Holiness. Her name is Helen Wing. And she did a study looking at the effects of very short-term training in compassion, 30 minutes a day for just 2 weeks. And we measured the brain before and after the training. And we had a comparison group that got a different kind of training. And it turns out that people became more cooperative, they became more altruistic, and their brains actually changed functionally after just 2 weeks of training. And so this is one of many indicators that we can think of as that these are skills which can be enhanced through training. The second fact is that well-being seems to be inversely or inversely related to mind wandering. So the more you mind wander, the less So there was a study done a couple of years ago that was published in a very major journal. And this was a study where people were sampled in the real world using iPhones and other kinds of smartphones, and they were beeped during the day, and they were asked 3 questions. One question is, what are you doing right now? The second question is your mind actually focused on what you're doing? And the third question is, how happy or unhappy are you? And the findings were actually quite striking. The findings indicate that 47% of the time, the average American is not actually paying attention to what she or he is doing. 47% of the time. And during these periods, people report that they're mostly unhappy. And when they become focused on what they're doing, they report that they actually feel better, their well-being is higher.
So can you explain what one mind wandering is?
Sure. So mind wandering would be, for example, how many... Your Holiness, everyone, I think, is laughing because the concept for you, I think, is foreign because your mind is so steady. But
No. I mean, you see, even if you want to open this, unless your mind is focusing there, you see, look there and do that, you cannot accomplish.
So it's
So,
always-
내가 가르치고 그러면 좀 적어.
So whatever we do, our mind is on that thing. So Solon is wondering whether, what is the relationship between distraction in general? I mean, do you mean just distracted mind or?
So a good example, which I think the audience will resonate with, is how many people in the audience have had the experience of reading a book, turning a page, and at the end of the page, not having any idea what they actually read. And their mind was somewhere else.
That is something different. You see, your eye consciousness simply is the reading, but your mental consciousness goes somewhere else.
Yes, that's what we're talking about.
Yes.
Oh. But then physical level,
But many of the physical activities, unless you pay attention to what you're doing, you won't be able to perform that task.
music, hearing, but your mind can go some different things.
Somewhere else.
I think even sort of eating, tasting, you see the mouth sort of movement, but your mind can go other. But then some physical actual action, unless you pay.
Attention.
Otherwise,
Well, I think that that's one of the important points about this kind of research is that it's showing that when our mind wanders in the ways that I'm describing, our performance on the tasks that we're engaged in suffers. We cannot perform them as efficiently. And it also is a source of suffering. People report not being happy when they're distracted in this way.
보기 가장 아주 지금 로컴들 관아서들 안에 그래서 섬주디 그 싸울 찾아왔어 그래.
말에 더 군중국에 있고 더 군중국에 가지고 있네. 전부 미국 대투고 봐. 미국만 망보지.
No. I myself also not like that. This is some chanting, some recitation. They recite, senses memorize, right? Memorize. So the word go automatically, but mind can go here and there. Any samdangwa judedi, ma de ba gurus ba tön sa she, ya sim ya de shin ju na shin tön jo ya shin tön jo shi bu.
So it's only saying that actually, a kind of mind wandering that you're talking about is familiar to him too. When he does his, practices, some of them involve chanting, and sometimes when chanting, your mind wanders, and then the actual visualization has to be done, but you have already skipped that section, and he has to go back and do it properly to be able to do the visualization.
Sometimes 2 times, or even 3rd time. That's you. Hey, same experience. So that's why you see, it is very, very important to practice, to cultivate single-pointed mind.
Yes. Yeah. So very briefly, the other points about science and well-being are these. The third point is that well-being is associated with specific patterns of brain activity and patterns of activity in our body, and they're connected, so that when our minds are at ease, our bodies, to some extent, are at ease, and this explains why emotions are actually important for our physical health in addition to our mental health. The fourth point is that the scientific research today indicates that there are 3 important components of well-being. One is equanimity or emotional balance. One indicator of that is a person's capacity to return back to baseline, return back to being calm after a stressful event might occur. So they may react, but they are able to come back down quickly. A second component is mindfulness and attentiveness of the sort that we've been talking about. And a third component is something Your Holiness talks a lot about, and that is generosity. Generosity seems experimentally in experimental research to promote well-being. And there's a very important study that was done a few years ago, published again in a very major journal, where they gave people a large sum of money in the beginning of the day. They randomly assigned people. They gave them $100 at the beginning of the day, and they said, please go. And most people have things that they've wanted to buy for themselves, but they've never had an opportunity. Please use this money and go buy whatever you'd like for yourself. And they came back at the end of the day to the laboratory. A second group was assigned to another condition where they were given $100 and said, please go buy things for other people. You can use the money in any way you want to spend it on others, but you cannot use any of it for yourself. And guess which group, at the end of the day, reports much higher levels of happiness and well-being? The group that spent money on others. So there's actually good experimental research. The last point is maybe the most important, and that is that there is an innate disposition toward well-being and generosity. And scientific research in young babies, infants 6 months of age, shows that there is a preference that infants show for cooperative, altruistic behavior compared to antagonistic and aggressive behavior. So these are 5, I think, important facts that science is now teaching us about well-being. So, thank you.
Thank you, Richie. So, Your Holiness, given what Richie has said, that science shows, what is it that we can do that we are not doing to help these tools that you know that you've been teaching about become more widespread?
Again, this morning I mentioned, I think again here, education, through education. And also the media people, the inform public, you see these sort of findings. That's the only way. That's the way. Question? I always is telling, when I met media people, firstly I mentioned my own commitment promoting the ethics, secular ethics. Then secondly, promoting religious harmony. And then I told the media people also have important role regarding promotion of these values. It is very, very important. The media people usually see the negative things. Of course, negative things become news. These positive things will not be a news. So, as a sort of a news reporter, you see, they usually see focusing on those negative things. Then the people in the past, many occasions, many questioners asked me, oh, human nature is some negative, aggressive, negative thing. So, future of humanity is doom. Because of, you see, they got that kind of information every day, some negative things. So basically, I believe, and also telling people, as you see, you find the basic human nature is more gentleness. I think 2 factors. The way we're born, from our mother. So, naturally, biologically, the mother have tremendous sort of affection. Without that, children cannot survive. So this is a question of survival. Secondly, we are social animal. So social animal means individual's future, individual life, entirely depend on the rest of the community. So even animal, no religion, no constitution, no police force, no government, but because of their biological nature, social animal. So they work together. So caring each other like that. So we are social animal. So basically, we already sort of have this potential, this seed there. And then logically, those people who received affection from other, those people who very much appreciate the mother's affection, then they also have this sort of seed of showing affection to other. So that's human nature. So basic human nature, I think we can say gentleness, more positive. Then grown up, and also the social environment, the society where it's not talking about these values, only money. And then, in order to make money, too much competition. So that sort of the environment, then you see the effect or basic sort of positive nature, then dormant.
Become more dormant.
Dormant. And aggressive part, and then become active. So therefore, on the sort of basic, I think, also the good nature, at the young age, still very fresh. Now, while grown up, usually you see these things becoming more dormant. At that time, we must educate. Through education, these values are extremely important whole rest of life. Then, that basic sort of good nature, then because of through nurturing. I think at the initial level, biological factor, then use human intelligence, reasoning, educate. These are very important for happy well-being, oneself and well-being of the family, the society. So use intelligence. Then it's strengthening or these some kind of sort of emotion based on biological factor. Now combined with reason, combined with human intelligence, then it will become very firm. So this is very possible. That's why you see, I always stress the importance of education, not faith. Education is extremely important. So the material, the scientists, your research, really providing good material to educate people, to bring conviction about these values. Like we, something different dress, and then when we say something compassion, these things, then some people feel, oh, that's their own world, their own way of sort of life. So I think, I think okay, Tibetan, the Buddhist society. Now, Matthew from France. So maybe his French friend may feel, or hear something wrong.
Mathieu, would you like to respond to this?
I'm working hard on making it straight.
So it would be great to transcribe what His Holiness said so that we can all have it every day and look at it, because my mind didn't wander, but nevertheless, I'd like to see it every day. Did your mind wander a little bit? No. You see, our mind kept steady while you were talking.
That also is it depend the subject.
Yes.
Subject something you really interest, then your mind go there.
Yeah.
But some kind of my own case. When I was young, a compulsory study, but I have no interest. So often memorizing and looking there, but my mind goes somewhere else.
Well, now they call it attention deficit disorder.
And
they put children on Ritalin.
Doesn't